The important thing about interviews is that you prepare for them.
Preparing for an interview is so essential.
It's important to have confidence, and I think the only way you get that confidence is through preparation.
The first thing that you should do is talk to everybody who has ever had an interview, just to get a sense of what to expect.
The best thing to do, and this is something that I did, I actually practiced.
I would say to do a mock interview, whether it's at the institution that you're planning to apply to, or find some of your colleagues and have them interview you.
Another thing that I would recommend is going to career services and signing up for a mock interview as soon as you can. I got a chance to practice my answers, I got some feedback, I got a chance to change up my answers a little bit. Another big part is researching the company.
Please don't waste a recruiter's time by not doing your homework.
When I was interviewing, I always tried to do my research on the organization that I was interviewing with.
Even if you know what job you're applying for, you're somewhat familiar with the company or organization, that's a great start, but doing research beyond that, finding out what their mission and vision statements are.
So as CEO of Mr. Car Wash, we interview a lot of people throughout the year, and I'm blown away at how many students come into an interview that haven't done their homework, that haven't researched the business, haven't gone to the website, haven't gone to the About Us, Investor Relations link, Google News the company to get some relevant facts about the business.
Collecting maybe some studies about things that have to do with the industry you're in.
You're showing the employer that you took the time to do some research and you care about not only your position and getting your paycheck every 2 weeks, but you care about being a member of their organization or of their company.
How you represent yourself in an interview is how you represent yourself professionally, period.
When I went into the interview, walked in thinking this is a conversation, this is not an interview. We're both learning from each other.
In an interview, it should be a two-way street, so it should be an exchange.
The point is to sort of relax into it and just tell the truth about yourself.
Be honest. Don't present yourself as something you're not. Because not only is that going to be bad for me when I hire you and then you're not who you are, that just stinks for you. Maybe this position isn't what you want.
It's very important that you are yourself. If you're going into an interview trying to be someone you're not, it's probably not going to work out well for anybody.
Just being a human being and not being a robot. I think employers can really tell when you're not being authentic or when you're trying to be this perfect candidate.
Be careful not to act like you've read a script about what you think I'm going to ask you.
You want yourself to sort of come through when you're talking to people. My father always said, tell the story. Tell your story. And people will glean from that what they need to know. And if they don't pick you, that wasn't the right job for you.
One thing that I would recommend when you go to your interview is try to find a connection with the interviewers. Not only because if you find a connection, you'll find a way to keep the conversation going, but because if you find a connection, they're going to remember that connection and you're going to stand out from a lot of other candidates who didn't find that connection.
The real key to me is a little bit of passion.
Show them that you are highly interested and passionate and motivated about getting that job, because your goal is to get not just one offer, but multiple offers. So you better sell yourself and show them that you're really, really excited about that company.
You have to be able to sell yourself, and that really is a skill that you have to master.
There's also the common etiquette of don't be late, wear professional attire.
Following up on interviews as well with a thank you card, it's crucial. So you can have the best interview in the history of great interviews, but if you don't follow up, I'm not sure that's going to get you a job. You're showing employers that you care enough to take 2 minutes out of your day to write a thank you card.
As a recruiter, I always ask at the end of our conversation if there's anything I can answer.
I always ask people if there are questions that they have for me.
I expect questions at the end. If somebody tells me they don't have questions, I get very suspicious about how much they actually know about what we're talking about.
In our interview process, I want to make sure that we are finding somebody that is inquisitive, somebody who wants to learn more about our organization, and someone who's going to take the time to ask questions in an interview.
It's as important as preparing for the interview is preparing the questions.
Come in, loaded for bear, if you will, with questions that you need to have answered, because this is your next step in your life too.
I can understand how a lot of questions could be answered. So be prepared for not having questions. What's your envelope that you pull out of your jacket that's like emergency questions?
Have 3 really solid questions that don't sound cliche, that don't sound canned, but that are relevant to that business. And a lot of it, I think, should be centered around culture, opportunities, professional growth.
One good question is like, well, tell me a little bit about you. How did you get here? Like, turn the table, talk to the interviewer.
I always turn the table around because you want to show interest in what's happening.
One of my vice presidents told me once, you can always find someone's level of interest in the types of questions that they ask you at the end of their interview.
The greatest hands down question I've ever received in an interview. He looked me in the eye at the end of the interview and said, after all that we've discussed in my resume and my cover letter, and after meeting me in person, is there anything that I've done that would lead you to the conclusion that I should not get this position? And if so, please tell me what those things are. Phenomenal question. Because now he's asking me for questions. He's going to get immediate response from me. He's going to know where he stands. And he was hired on the spot. You know, no questions asked, because that's such a good question. If somebody ever asked me that again, it would be another immediate hire.
If people don't ask a lot of questions or any questions at all at the end of an interview, we generally won't move forward with them as a rule of thumb.
So I expect questions, and I do read into some of the questions that they ask.
When you're asking the question, if you say something like, oh, I know Honeywell does this, this, and this, tell me a little bit more. That shows me you did your homework, and I'm more likely to keep the conversation going.
Those kind of things often tell me that they've done their research, they've done their homework, they want to know questions and answers, because this is their future too.